So I started off the vaulting lesson by first mounting up. We worked on mounting from the ground later in the lesson, but to get on the first time, I was given a leg up. After that, they had me grab onto the handles of the surcingle and we began the lesson. The first compulsory movement that I worked on was the basic seat. Before going into basic seat, my instructor really focused on getting me used to pointing my toes towards the ground. As simple as it sounds, this was actually so hard for me because I feel like as a dressage rider or just someone who participates in regular equestrian disciplines, I feel like the phrase heels down, toes up is like drilled into us from the moment we start riding. Now for a more educational description of what this movement is, the basic seat position is a static exercise where the arms of the vaulter are raised out to the side with fingers closed and palms facing towards the ground. The vaulter's legs should be wrapped against the horse's side and the vaulter's feet should be arched and pointed down. The vaulter's back should also be straight but not rigid. The next thing that I worked on was the dismount. There are so many different ways to dismount a horse when vaulting, but for my first lesson, they just had me do a simple over-the-crest dismount. The next compulsory exercise was the flank off. To get into the flank off, the vaulter will swing his legs forward once to create some momentum and then swing his legs backwards. When doing this, the vaulter is supposed to keep a straight body with full leg extension until the vaulter is almost in a handstand position. Then the vaulter pushes free of the horse and lands on either the inside or the outside of the lunging circle. Now what I'm doing in my lesson is actually considered a flank first part. This is because I am just holding the position and not using this to dismount off my horse. This was harder than I expected it to be, especially because my instructor made it look effortless when she did a demo, but it was a lot of fun to try out. After the flank first part, I went into a forward kneel. What I'm doing in my lesson is not a true kneel by vaulting standards, but it is very similar. In my lesson, my instructor referred to it as a box position. For the forward kneel, the vaulter will kneel on the horse's back while keeping his body upright and facing forward. When doing this, the vaulter can either hold on to the handles or ride hands-free. In my lesson, I held on to the handles because again, this was not a true kneel. So instead of keeping my back upright, I was leaning forward onto the horse and putting my body weight into the handles and creating more of a box shape than a kneel. To start off, they had me get on from the ground this time. I hopped 3 times to gain some momentum before pulling myself onto the horse. Following the flank off and the kneel, the next movement was the flag. Before going into the flag, my instructor had me go into a flank first part, then into a box, and then had me go into the flag. The idea behind this was to continue practicing the other moves, but also help me get into the flag position seamlessly. Just like the basic seat, the flag is also a static exercise. This is where the vaulter hops onto both knees for a moment and then extends the outside leg straight out behind. The outside leg should remain parallel to the horse's spine, and the base leg should be angled across the horse's back with the vaulter putting body weight on the shin and the top of the foot to avoid digging into the horse's back with the knees. Another thing I worked on in this lesson was practicing running in sync with the horse. Now this is not technically a vaulting exercise, but it is something that vaulters will do in competition and does aid them in vaulting onto the horse from the ground. I think this was the hardest for me because I would run in sync and then I would fall out of sync with the horse super quickly. I had to look down a few times to see if I could match my footfalls with the horse's footfalls. It was pretty difficult overall. My instructor had me go back to the middle of the circle so she could give me a proper demo. So here's my instructor giving a demonstration on how running in sync with the horse should look. The final thing I got to do in my vaulting lesson was a basic seat at the canter. They had me start off by putting my left hand out to the side and then my right arm until I was in the basic seat position. This was by far my favorite thing that I got to do the entire lesson because I got to apply what I learned with basic seat and add a little bit of speed and practice doing it at the canter. Slow down to a trot, they had me lean back, and when we finally came to a halt, they had me do another crest dismount off of the horse. This is where I ended my lesson, so this is where I'm going to end the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.